Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, first off, let me put out I appreciate the 4,500 subscribers that I have. I am incredibly sorry that I haven't posted anything recently. Um, as you know, if you've been following my channel, a lot of the stuff that I've been posting were uh, hack the site challenges, hellbound hacker challenges, how to get through those things. Um, all of a sudden, I started getting tons of strikes from the YouTube algorithm that I was showing people how to hack, and they were going to close down my channel. So I got extremely irritated with them and decided, you know what, I'm done. But we've had a life change here. But I go too much into it because I want to get into our DOS and our DDos attacks. I was diagnosed with muscle invasive bladder cancer about 2 months ago now. I'm undergoing chemo. I'll undergo chemo for about 2 months, and then I'm going to have a pretty major surgery to where I'll be out for at least another month, month and a half. And you know, I decided now's the time for me to use my 30 years in IT to help those people who are trying to study to pass A+, Net+, Security+, CYSA, CEH, any of those certs. So a lot of things that I'm going to be covering are things that you're going to see on multiple tests. And this just happens to be one. Again, I appreciate you guys hanging out. I get so many great comments, even though I haven't posted anything in years. I get great comments that you enjoyed the video and it helped you understand this or helped you do that. So I'm going to start creating these again. So I'm going to put out right now, if there is a particular topic, let's say you're studying for SEC or CYSA or something like that, and there's a particular topic that you just can't get, throw it down in the comments. It may be a short video, it may be a long video, depending on what the topic is, but I will definitely create a video on it. Takes me a while to create the slide decks and stuff like that, but let me know and I'll be more than happy to do it. And if you feel so inclined, like and subscribe. They are not going to let me monetize this channel. They've already got enough strikes against me to where they pulled my monetization from it. So while I would like to do this for some extra income, maybe they'll let me monetize it one day. If you guys keep hitting up, subscribing, liking, maybe they'll jump in and let me do some monetization just for a little extra income. I'm on short term right now. 50% of a paycheck kind of stinks. But anyway, let's get on with this. DOS and DDoS attacks. And you're going to see these, especially on Sec+. You're going to see them on CYSA. You're definitely going to have them in CEH if you decide to take that test. So let's get through. And first off, describe those. So a typical DOS attack is nothing more than an attack on a machine that can restrict, reduce, or prevent a legitimate user from getting to that resource. It does not have to crash the machine. A lot of people think, you know, it's strictly it prevents users. No, it can definitely reduce. If you're eating up so much bandwidth on an attack that a user has to try 5 or 6 times to get to a resource, that's a successful DOS attack. The way we do it is by flooding that machine with some non-legitimate request or general traffic to overload that machine. And there's a bunch of different kinds. These are just some that we'll take a quick look at. I'm not going to go over fragmentation, but I'll explain it. UDP floods, ICMP floods, your typical pings. The two that everybody gets mixed up, and these will be on, if you're taking sec, you will probably have these questions on your test. A ping of death versus a smurf. Two completely separate attacks, but people get them mixed up. Then there's some specialty ones like pulse attacks. There's a SYN attack. There's a fragmentation attack. There's HTTP get and post attacks, Solaris attacks. There's a bunch of other attacks, but these are your big ones. Okay, so the difference between a DOS and a DDoS attack. A DOS attack is basically one machine versus one machine. I'm the attacker. I want to restrict access to your machine. Therefore, I'm going to hit them with one of those attacks. My machine is hitting your machine. That's a DOS attack. A DDoS attack, a distributed denial of service attack. I have help. These take a little bit longer to set up. Typically, it's a botnet. But what I'm going to do is I am going to send a command to 200 machines that I own. And I'm going to tell those machines to attack that one server. So now it's 200 versus 1. That's the DDoS attack. The outcome is the same. It still restricts, reduces, or prevents legitimate users' access. But it is done, right here from multiple compromised machines. That's the difference in a DOS and a DDoS. Okay, very good. So let's get into some of these type of attacks. A typical UDP attack. I have to do a couple of things first. For a UDP attack, I have my little Wacom tablet here, so I am going to be spoofing somebody's address. And I'm going to send these packets to a random port. Any port. So, as I start sending out these UDP packets, and remember, UDP is incredibly fast. I'm sending these packets out. Every time I send this packet out, this server needs to check. First off, it needs to read the packet. It needs to check the port. It needs to see if it's reachable or unreachable. There is some resources. For every one of these I send, it's going to take them time to figure out whether they can accept it or not. By the time they figure out if they can accept this one, I've already sent, 1,000 more. And they're just hitting the queue. Now, yes, it will call destination unreachables because I'm sending it to a random port, but I'm flooding the usage of that machine. Not really flooding bandwidth, not with a UDP packet, they're so small. But what I am doing is I'm flooding its resources. I'm making the CPU usage go up and up and up until hopefully I can get it to 100%. Once I get CPU usage to 100%, typically RAM to 100%, now we're going to start hitting the page file sys. Now my hard drive is going to start going to 100%. And it's a very good chance that you're going to knock this baby out. So that's a typical UDP. So any sort of UDP traffic you can send. Okay. Now we can do the exact same thing with an ICMP flood. An ICMP flood is nothing more than a ping. So you can ping a machine. You can change the speed of the ping. You can change the packet size of what you're transferring and all that type of stuff. But there is a big thing here. you do want to keep in mind. Look at this. Spoofed address. Because here's the problem with the ping. If I want to take down this machine here by sending them pings, and I do not spoof somebody's address. Let's say I'm just a regular old workstation. They're a server. They got more processing power than me. I'm going to send them a request right here. But what are they going to do? Well, what they're going to do is they are going to send me back a reply. Oops, sorry about that. I don't want these replies, because for every request I send, I'm going to get back a reply. I may end up DOSing myself. So I'm going to spoof somebody else's address. You can even spoof a fake address. I'm going to send them the request. They're going to send the reply back to that spoofed address. I can send these packets incredibly fast. Just a little bonus here. One thing that I do this on all the time when I'm testing networks. hping 3. Run it from Linux. hping 3. There is a special switch called -- flood. That will send these ping requests incredibly fast and will typically take down a standard machine and even some servers. At least make them to where they're so slow they're going to need to be rebooted. And if I don't stop the attack, by the time they reboot and come back up again, the attack's still going on. It's a great attack to do. ICMP floods are great. There are a lot of internal networks do not allow pings. Now the two that people get mixed up, and they're completely different. A ping of death. A ping of death, you actually have to create the packet itself. Realize, let me take a look at something here real quick. I think I have it listed. I don't. But what, according to RFC 791, I believe it is, there is a packet size, 65,535 bytes. This right here. Oops. That's what I get for clicking. Right here. That is the maximum packet size that can be transferred. But if we create our own packet, see, this is 65,510, 65,530, 65,538. The packet is too big. So of course when this packet gets transferred, like everything else, the packet is, fragmented into parts. It's not one big packet, it's all fragmented into parts. But when it gets to this server, and this server puts this back together again, it's going to end up with 65,538 bytes, which exceeds the packet limit. And will not always, but will typically cause the system to crash. It's a great little one to play with. I wish I could show them to you. I do have virtual machines, but I can't get another strike. So ping of death, malformed packets. Packets too large or malformed in one way or the other to cause the other machine to crash. Now, our wonderful Smurf attack. This is one of my favorites. Again, I have to, for this to work, I must spoof my victim. So this is the person I want to take down. This is me. We're all on the same network. What I'm going to do, I can use a bunch of tools to do it. I'll go over those real quick at the very end. You can even use Nmap to do it. I can use hping to do it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to spoof their address, and I'm going to send a ping out to the broadcast. Basically, I'm going to ping all of these machines. Now, these may be 10 machines, these may be 500 machines. Since I'm spoofing this person's address, this guy right here, I'm going to ping them, but their replies are all going to go to this guy. Everybody. The more machines I ping, the quicker that machine is going to go down. They're going to get they're going to get a reply from every machine you ping. You're pinging 500. For every one broadcast ping you send, they're getting 500 ping replies. Their machine will typically, every time I run this and inside of a test network, I end up blue screening the victim's machine almost instantaneously. So it's a great way to knock somebody out. Now this is a special type of attack. This is called a pulse wave. A pulse wave is typically going to be a DDoS attack because you're not going to be able to build up enough stuff to do it. But what we're doing is we're sending repetitive packets in a very large pulse. Typically, the way it's written in most books, they say typically every 10 minutes. So GitHub was hit by one of these. So let's say at noon, sorry, got off my pen. At noon, all of these machines that were participating in this DDoS generated enough packets and sent them out at exactly noon to this one web server. 400 gigabits of data. And then they stopped. 10 minutes later, they hit them with another 400 gigs. They stopped. 10 minutes later, another 400 gigs. They stopped. Another 400 gigs. They keep doing that. That's why they call it a pulse. Again, it could be every 5 minutes. It could be every 10 minutes. These type of attacks typically last days. And one of these pulses is typically enough to fill up the pipe, eat up all the bandwidth. So their network is going to be up and running, down. Stabilize, up and running, down. Stabilize, up and running, down. It becomes one of these attacks that by the time you get the CSIRT team, the incident response team, out to see what's going on, the attack's not happening. And then it hits again. And then it hits again. It doesn't have to be 10 minutes. It could be every hour. It's a way to really irritate network administrators and security administrators because it's not an ongoing attack. It's a hit stop. And then the final one we'll talk about is the send flood. I do have a video out there, I believe, explaining the three-way handshake, which you definitely need to understand. But in a typical three-way handshake, what happens when two machines want to talk? let's say the port is open, things are legit. This machine wants to connect FTP. They will send a send packet. It says, hey, I want to synchronize with you over port 21. If that port is open, that machine will send back, first off, they will send back an acknowledgement that says, I got your packet. And then the arrow's going the wrong way. Then they will send back, a SYNAC. Okay, I'm willing to sync with you, and I acknowledge you. I acknowledge the packet, and the connection's made. Well, what we're going to do is we're not going to wait for all this mess. What we are going to do is we're going to send them, let's use FTP. We're going to send them a send packet and says, hey, I want to connect to you over FTP, port 21. Now, we're not going to wait for their acknowledgement, their send act. We're not going to wait for anything. What we're going to do is we are going to manipulate our MAC address or even our IP, and we are going to send them another send. It says, hey, I want to connect to you over FTP. Then we're going to do it again over FTP. Over FTP. We're going to continue to do this. Now, why does this work? As we're changing things, again, we're using fake IP addresses. We have to use fake IP addresses every single time. So, of course, we're not going to get a response back. We're not going to get any sort of, SYNAX or anything like that back. But there is what we call a queue. As of right now, when I send you the send packet, we now have a partially open connection. It's not completely open, but it's partially open. That will be open for 75 seconds before this machine here will eventually shut this down. So I got 75 seconds to constantly send different IPs going, I want an FTP connection. I'm going to fill up the queue on this machine to where they don't have any more active connections. Their queue is completely full. This is more of a volumetric attack, or a protocol attack. Their FTP protocol has totally been eaten up. So if I can send this enough, yeah, I'll definitely be able to crash the FTP protocol, but probably be able to crash the server at the same time. So you can do this on anything that requires a three-way handshake. It does not have to be FTP. FTP is just the one I use. But it works a lot. Okay, so there are more DOS and DDoS attacks. There's fragmentations, there's the post, there's what we call the multi-vector attacks, which is really all the attacks I showed, but you can run multiple ones back to back. You can run them what we call in parallel, or you can run them in sequence. You can run them back to back, like I can do a ping attack followed by a SYN attack followed by an HTTP GET attack, or I can run all three of them at the same time. Just depends. Now, some tools that you'll see used for a lot of these things: Nmap. Nmap is a big tool that will allow you to do it. HPing3, probably one of my favorites. You can run that through Linux, whether you like Kali Linux, whether you like Parrot, whatever. You can use HPing3 to do it. They got some great switches for almost every one of these attacks. If you want to do like a ping of death attack, you'll need something like Colosoft Packet Creator, where you can create your own packet. There are other ones that can do it, but that's one. Hoik and Loik, the high orbit ion cannon and the low orbit ion cannon. Loic is typically used for DOS attacks. Hoik is used for DDoS attacks. It's not the most powerful, but if you got people kind of helping you do it, it can work. And of course, the wonderful Metasploit framework. Metasploit has got attachments on it. It links, of course, to Nmap. You can link it to basically anything and do all your attacks straight through Metasploit. Metasploit has its own attack vectors too. So I hope those helped you out, standard DOS and DDoS attacks. Again, if there is a particular thing, whether it's understanding Kerberos or Active Directory or different types of raids or whatever it is, if you're struggling on anything as you're studying for any of these certification tests, if I know it, I'll be more than happy to create a video for you guys. Okay, so this is where we're going to leave it. Again, definitely like and subscribe. I definitely appreciate it if you like and subscribed. Drop any comments down below of what you want. I plan on doing these the whole time I'm going through chemo. If I have great days, I plan on putting up some videos for you. When it gets closer to surgery, I'll probably have to back off for a little bit there because I'll be out for a while. But until then, thank you, my friends. Look forward to seeing you soon, and have a great one.